We now conclude the module with a brief discussion of two traditions in the history of political economy that dealt with issues that have become central to contemporary economies. Traditions that pointed to ways that profits can be made by taking from society's commonwealth. The French physiocrats of the 18th century and the American political economist Henry George. The physiocrats believed that the ultimate source of all wealth was land, and that the economic system was simply appropriating and distributing the land's bounty. The physiocrats had a great deal of influence over Adam Smith, who also thought that the ultimate source of all wealth could be linked to an input or factor of production, in his case, not land, but labor. But the popularity of the physiocrats declined significantly after Adam Smith's ideas became dominant in economic thinking. But their emphasis on how the economic system simply takes things from nature has become particularly relevant to the functioning of contemporary economies. These are economies that have ramped up that taking from nature to historically unprecedented levels. Our economic system is not only taking mineral and other resources from the earth without much thought to the consequences, but is also taking from the planet's atmosphere by destabilizing its composition in ways that have geological effects, potentially catastrophic ones. In the same way that economic thinking needs to consider how profits rely on the dispossession of workers, on the social subordination of women, and on the historical oppression of other social groups, a contemporary political economy needs to consider explicitly the extent to which our production systems take from our environment. Doing this will draw on the contributions of the 18th century physiocrats. The second tradition that I want to bring up was founded by Henry George. Henry George was concerned with the issue of real estate and the incomes that people can generate from land ownership without making any productive effort. This is increasingly relevant because in many countries our cities have become places where landlords can generate absolutely phenomenal incomes. In many economies, disproportionate increases in house prices have become a systematic way for wealth to be transferred, typically from the young to the old. Henry George would have had a lot to say about this. To him, cities and other agglomerations or clusters of residences and workplaces make real estate more valuable. This increase in value happens because concentrations of people and businesses tend to make everybody more productive. Cities are places of what economists call economies of agglomeration, involving reductions in the costs of doing business because there are many other people doing business in the same geographical place. You can have shared infrastructures, you can have shared supply networks, you can have a shared trained workforce, and so on. All of that improves productivity and as a result makes real estate in those locations more valuable. The question then is, who should benefit from this increase in the value of real estate? Well, people like Henry George would say, since this increase in value is due to a society's collective decision to establish and develop a city or a productive agglomeration in a particular place, its benefits should accrue to the society as a whole. But that is not what happens in a market economy. If commercial space in New York City, say, becomes more valuable because there are more qualified workers, potential customers, and business services in the city than other places, landlords appropriate higher rents. If population, income growth, and inadequate increases in housing supply mean that a flat bought in central London in 1990 for £50,000 is now worth £1 million, who should appropriate that gain? Well, right now, that gain is appropriated by the homeowner, typically an older person. And the loss is taken A, by the typically younger person who has to over-indebt themselves in order to meet the price, and B, by the many more people who would have previously lived in that location but can no longer afford to do so. Henry George would say, bring in a steep tax on real estate values to redistribute back to society those gains that are being made on the back of social decisions. That's something worth considering. Can you think of other mechanisms that people use to make profits in ways that simply draw on our common social wealth?